Hello, my name is Eunhye Suh from Hanmaum Church in Jincheon. I was a free soul who couldn't be controlled by anyone. When I was a teenager, I was addicted to smoking, and I also ran away from home countless times. But when I met Jesus, who is alive, I was able to put an end to this kind of life and became someone who serves juvenile delinquents. My family's circumstances became very difficult during my elementary school years. I was always scolded by my teachers for paying school tuition late. The most difficult thing for me was that whenever I went with friends to buy snacks, I couldn't buy any because I had no money. That's why I had a mind to make money. So I started a part-time job when I entered middle school. I did whatever I wanted. It felt so good to make money and be able to go out to eat with my friends as I pleased. Then I wanted more freedom from home and school, so I started to run away from home with my friends. But when I left home, it wasn't just for a few days. It was usually for 2 to 3 months. And in order to not get caught, I ran away to almost everywhere in the country. Of course, because of this, my school attendance rate was very low, and I was forced to be transferred to another school. I was transferred 3 times in middle school and 3 times in high school. One time I was transferred when I was in the second semester of ninth grade. Even at my new school, I would skip class and gather all my friends to devise a runaway plan. At that time, I was living with my sister. It was just the two of us, so our place was like a hideout to my friends. I was putting on a leopard print dress and curling my hair with heated chopsticks, getting ready to go out into the world. Then all of a sudden, somebody knocked on the door very hard. It was my friend's parents who had found out that their kids were not at school. We didn't open the door, so they finally called the police, and all of us ended up being dragged to school. I was considered the leader of the group, so I was the one who got punished the most. My parents were called later on, and I couldn't even tell them that my teachers had punished me because I was afraid of more punishment. My school had a regulation on hair length. When I ran away, I grew my hair out, so when I came back, my teacher cut off my hair on only one side. It was a few days before getting my graduation photo taken. That's why in my middle school yearbook photo, my hair looks uneven. But none of this stopped me, and I continued to run away whenever I got a chance. At that time, a pop star had pink hair and it was getting popular. I really liked that hairstyle. I got a part-time job so that I could earn money and get my hair dyed pink. Because my pink hair stood out, my father was able to find me easily when I ran away. I happened to be on the school track team, so I was running as fast as I could. But my father was flying. Finally, he caught me, but I really didn't want to go home, so I cursed at my dad with all sorts of words. My mother was crying as she held my arm, begging me to come home, and when I saw her cry, I couldn't resist anymore. So I finally returned home. No matter how much I thought about it, the reason I got caught seemed to be my pink hair. So after that, I dyed my hair green or blonde so that I couldn't be caught as easily. One time I was walking on the street with my friend. I had no money because I had already run away from home. Then suddenly my friend approached some elementary school kids to bully them into giving us their money. There were people around us, so I told my friend we should just get out of there. But then my friend hit one kid, saying that the kid gave her a dirty look. The kid's glasses flew off, and people started to gather around us because the kid was crying. Then all of a sudden the kids were gone. Because my friend started to run, I also ran along with her, but I was faster, so I caught up to the kids. But then the kids went into a store, and all of a sudden a bunch of ladies came out and started to hit me with ladles and trays. Then I looked back and saw my chubby friend run away after seeing me get beat up. At that moment, I felt like, so this is what betrayal is like. But then the police caught me and even my friend, and we were returned home. Life away from home was always very tough, but I still thought I was happier than when I was at home. There are 3 characteristics of a homeless person: being cold, hungry, and sleepy. I looked like a homeless person when I was away from home. When I was too cold and sleepy, I once got on the subway and slept all the way to the last station. Then I had to get off at the same time as the railway officer. Since I was a wanderer, I naturally started drinking and smoking when I entered middle school. Alcohol was a way to make friends, and smoking was a way to forget the world. I became addicted to smoking, and I smoked 2 to 3 packs a day. Later on, though, I would lie down on my bed and smoke 4 packs in a row. It didn't matter whether my parents were home or how many people were around me. Even if I couldn't eat, I had to smoke. When I had no money and no cigarettes, I would pick up cigarette butts from the ground to smoke. Even the friends around me who also smoked were calling me a chain smoker. I couldn't live without smoking during my high school and college years either. Because I had a very low attendance rate, I didn't think that I could go to college. But my teacher in my junior year helped me to go to college. I entered a 4-year college and I made my mind up to get my life in order and live as a new person once I went to college. But not long after that, I went back to my old life. And because I was legally an adult, I enjoyed even more freedom. I loved going to clubs, dancing, and spending time with my friends. I also put a lot of effort into my appearance. When I was 21, I entered a beauty pageant called the Peach Beauty Contest. I heard that most participants had prepared for 2 to 3 months for the pageant and pretty much lived at the beauty shop. But I applied only 2 weeks before the day of the pageant, so I couldn't prepare at all. I had to wear traditional Korean clothes, properly bow before the panel of judges, answer the host's questions, and do professional stage walking. I gave a good answer to the host's impromptu questions, so I got a lot of points for that. The question was to make a poem with the letters P, B, and C for the Peach Beauty Contest. I was caught off guard, but even before I realized it, I was already answering him. Even now when I think about it, it was a toe-curling answer. But I said, if you give me the rhyme, I'll show you what I can do. Oh. Pleasantly plump face I have. So. Babies would come so easily out of me. Can't be just anyone, only peach blossom sun hair. I was dancing and singing embarrassingly to these words, but I was ranked 7th out of 28 ladies. The top 6 ladies were recognized as peach beauties, but since I was the 7th, I was awarded the title of the pickled radish beauty. It was embarrassing enough not to be a peach beauty, but as a pickled radish beauty, I was an honorary ambassador of pickled radishes to the city of Jochiwon. I received many kinds of pickles as awards and shared them with my relatives. In this way, I enjoyed the world and things seemed to be fine. But I went through a tough time because of some unresolved feelings inside of me. I wanted to live as I wanted, but I became more exhausted as I tried harder to do it. I couldn't understand why I couldn't feel free even after living as I wanted. Instead of freedom, I was falling deeper into an abyss, and I just couldn't understand why I was living like this. And in the middle of this, God led me to Hanmaum Church in Chuncheon through my big sister. I was born as a Christian and had served the church a lot, but I knew very well that I did not have faith. The reason I couldn't believe in God was because I couldn't see Him. It didn't make any sense to believe in someone you couldn't see. No matter how much I was forced or dragged to church, I couldn't believe because I couldn't see God. All I could see was this world, and that was it. All I could see were my family's hardships, bad people who betrayed you, and my purposeless, wandering life. And these were what mattered to me. So a God you couldn't even see? I thought believing in Jesus or the Bible was only for people who wanted to rely on something. Even if I had to rely on something, I tried to rely on this world. I didn't have an ounce of desire to rely on something you couldn't see. That was why I never tried to listen about Jesus or anything in the church. But the reason I am able to stand here and testify to the Jesus who changed my life is because I got to see and know the invisible God, heaven and hell, and the devil who turned this world into darkness. It's not that I experienced something or saw a vision. It's not that I tried going up to heaven like the Apostle Paul did. The reason I could clearly see everything was because God Himself had come to this world as a man. I thought I could see God only after I died. But He had come to this world as a man. And this man was Jesus. I used to wonder how I could believe in Jesus as God, because Jesus was a human being just like me. But the pastor said that if God Himself had come to this world, He wouldn't have just left without leaving a sure proof behind. When I thought about it, if He really had come to this world as a man just like us, He must have given us proof so that all mankind could believe it. Then the pastor showed us a verse in Matthew 12. It was about what Jesus had said after people asked Him to show them signs so that they could believe. And Jesus said that the only sign to show them was the sign of Jonah. The moment I heard that there was nothing but the sign of Jonah, I heard these words as a strong cry from God in my heart. Resurrection, the proof to believe that Jesus is God, the unshakable proof that God Himself came to this world. This was it. I felt like a hole had been punched through my frustrations. I couldn't believe because I couldn't see. But in fact, God Himself had come to this world and already showed us everything. Through the proof of being raised back to life, He nailed into my heart the fact that Jesus was God who had come to this world. To me, this was the proof that couldn't ever be changed or be shaken. Amen. If Jesus had not risen again, there was no way for us to believe that Jesus who died was God. Everyone eventually dies and goes back to the earth, but only Jesus who had risen from the dead was the God who had created this world and myself. Amen. I used to blindly seek God when I was having a hard time, but now I saw the direct connection between God and the risen Jesus. It was a huge shock to me that God Himself had come to this world as a human being for a worthless person like me, and my heart was moved. Through the risen Jesus, He showed me everything. Jesus' resurrection was the light that gave sight to my blinded eyes. Amen. As I stood before the risen Jesus who was alive even now, I felt so ashamed of myself. I had blamed Him who had thrown His own life away to be with me forever. I blamed Him for my circumstances. I had accused Him of not answering my prayers. I told Him that nothing ever went my way and that He didn't exist. I had cursed Him, and He had been watching all this time. He had been with me whenever I was having a hard time or lost and wandering. But I had been drunk on the world, so I didn't believe in the Jesus who had come to find me. When I realized this, my heart was filled with pain. God had sent His only Son and confirmed this for us by raising Him from the dead. And if you still didn't believe, God would be heartbroken because there was nothing more to be done. But I couldn't help but repent before Him with tears the treacherous sin that I had committed in my heart, the sin of not believing in Jesus, who was sent into this world to save us. Such an incomparably great being had been knocking on the door of my heart. Now I could open the door for Him, and the misunderstandings and blame towards God all disappeared. My life of wandering as I lived being my own Lord came to a close because the Creator God had come to this world and become my Lord. That was when I began to live a life before God. Amen. People around me told me a lot that God must really exist because I changed so much. Then I said to them, "Don't look at me, but look at the Jesus who changed me." I have stopped not only drinking and smoking, but also living an aimless life in this world. Now, whatever I do it for the risen Jesus with all my heart. Most importantly, I started to live a life of heavenly joy regardless of my circumstances, because what I see is not only this world, but the eternal God and the eternal kingdom where the risen Jesus is. Amen. When I depended on things of this world, I was so troubled. But now that I rely on God and take my steps as I gaze upon eternal things, I have truly become a free soul. Amen. As I came to live such a joyful life, I was reminded of my friends a lot. So I talked about Jesus to my friends. But some of my friends said that they didn't like how I changed and couldn't believe in Jesus. But then one of them came to believe in the risen Jesus and became a new person. Now she has a blessed family in the Lord. I believe and pray to God that He would lead my remaining friends to Him as well.
Amen.
I spent my youth wandering, but God gave me the best job ever. I became a social worker who helps teenagers at school. Among these kids, I paid special attention to troubled female students. It was because I felt like I was seeing myself in them. And I don't know how they knew about me, but a lot of them came to me first. While talking with them and counseling them, God let me embrace them in my heart. There was a girl whose family was having a difficult time. She cut her wrists and came to see me after getting therapy. As I held her wrist, I told her, "You don't need to live like this. Jesus has already risen to become your Lord." And we cried together. There was another girl who was beaten by her father almost every day. She was also called a troublemaker. But then, after believing in the risen Jesus, her hatred towards her father vanished, and she started to pray for her father in tears. Through this, God allowed me to see what I should dedicate my life to once more.
Amen.
God has allowed me to meet a husband who could understand and accept everything about me, and we have a family in Christ. And my baby, my precious gift from God, is growing well in my belly. I'm now working at a police station, the place I used to visit so often when I was younger. I'm working there as a counselor of victims. As I meet many people who've been through much pain, the thought that occurs to me is that there's nothing but believing in the risen Jesus to resolve all of these problems, and my heart aches so much for them. I can picture vividly how I myself would be living now if I hadn't met the risen Jesus. I thank the Lord so much for saving me and giving me a purpose in life when I was lost and wandering in the world and heavily addicted to smoking. God gave me love and grace without asking for anything in return from me. So I will give my youth to the Lord as I live my life sharing the risen Jesus with the world. Thank you.